Hello, everyone. Welcome to 20 Minutes in the Word with Dr. Denise. It is a beautiful early fall evening. And so I wanted to come to you today to introduce to you my special guest. I want to introduce you to the Reverend Kerwin Webb. I met Kerwin in 2018. We were both selected, along with about 10 other seminarians, to participate in the Center for Public Justice's Sacred Sector Fellowship Program. We spent 2 weeks in an intensive training, being equipped to be leaders in the faith based nonprofit sector. Upon meeting Kerwin, it became immediately apparent to me that this young man is a leader of the next generation of leaders. Minister Kerwin Webb serves as the youth young adult pastor at Second Baptist Church of Asbury Park, New Jersey. And also, he is the president of the Greater Red Bank area in AACP. He received a master in divinity from the Princeton Theological Seminary, and he is diligently working to bring about transformation within community organizations, individuals, and within the church. I'm excited to see young people who are passionate about the gospel of Jesus Christ and who love and believe in the church, especially when so many millennials have walked away from the church. In the book, The Unchristian, What a New Generation Really Thinks About Christianity, David Kinnaman reflects outsiders' most common reaction to Christianity. He says they think Christians no longer represent what Jesus had in mind, and that Christianity in today's society is not what it was meant to be. After interviewing thousands of millennials who no longer want to attend Sunday services, Kinnaman goes on to say that young people today are incredibly candid and they do not hold back their opinions. So, if we're going to really understand them, we have to approach them based upon what they really think and not what we assume about them. We can't overcome their hostility by ignoring it. Those of us who are in the church, especially pastors and leaders, we cannot be apprehensive about coming to the table, sitting down with them, and understanding their stark views of today's church. Check this out. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Denise and the Reverend Kerwin Webb, and we're going to have a candid conversation. And I'll read the post that my brother wrote that basically precipitated this conversation and why it is that we want to have these kinds of discussions online. He says, no disrespect intended, but listening to some preachers online and having conversations with churchgoers, I've expanded my understanding of why people have given up on church and organized religion. Become part of building an alternative. God is on the move. All right, so let's discuss that, Reverend Kerwin, and tell me what all happened, what was going on with you when you wrote that?
So that had been, that post was the result. The most immediate thing before that was I watched two sermons online.
Okay.
And just listening to what was said and understanding. So we're both seminary trained, so like that takes us to a different level, and so you have to kind of moderate for that. But just these sermons that I heard was just basically somebody repeating the same scripture just in different ways.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And it bothered me because one of these people I actually knew a little better than the other. And I know that this person is a better preacher than that. I'll say that. I know that this person can preach better than they did because I've heard that person preach better than they did. Right. So in my mind, it was like, okay, this person probably just had a lot going on, didn't do a good job of preparing. And so I go to the next one, and it was worse. Okay. Now, I will start by saying this. It is not easy being a preacher, right? Yes. And so I'm not just attacking people because something's small, but it's just like the world is literally on fire, right? There are earthquakes on the East Coast. Yes. There are white supremacists reigning all over. There's a global pandemic. And people really want to know, who is this God that you claim to serve, and where is he? Or like, what do I do with this? Right. And then it's like, I go and hear that. And it's just like, oh my God, no wonder people are lost. Yes. No wonder people don't know the power that they have, the responsibility that they have, but also like just people complain, pastors, leaders complain about people not going to church. And it's like, I see why. I really see why. Good. And I only care because my heart is for God's people and for transformation. Yes. And it just seems like that because everything is online, because a lot of people are going virtual, and there's a plethora of opportunities to hear the word. Yes. I thought that would be a change in the better, change for the better, because now more people would get fed, more people would become engaged. Yes. But seeing that is like, okay, so they hear more, and they're like, oh yeah, that's why I don't do church stuff. I'm out. Yeah, yeah. And that's where it starts.
I think that is a very good point, especially with the pandemic, and now God has taken away our four walls. We can't be comfortable in our pews anymore, all of that. So things have so drastically changed. And I do agree, the opportunity to reach more people in our congregation, I mean, it's wide open. And now we have to be, or we should be, more concerned about people than we are actually, having a nice building or our little beautiful programs. What are we doing now to really reach these souls that are lost? It's no longer about our congregation. It's about everybody, everywhere. Right. So I do understand your point. I mean, what do you think is the solution, or what would you suggest? Or
So my biggest frustration, because I don't expect everybody to have the answer and be like, we can do that. Yeah. But don't be closed to suggestions. Like that, I think, is the thing that gets me. When people give suggestions about what can be done or what I think will work or what I saw, let's try this. Yes. And people immediately say, no, that's not going to work because, without even hearing it out or thinking of it, it's just saying you don't want to. You don't want to be better. Yes. And so many people, I know initially when the pandemic started, so many people were like, oh, when we get back to normal, we'll get back to, okay, that's been 6 months ago. So getting back to normal is not happening. You can't hold those same ideals now that you did then. Yeah, right. So my solutions or my thoughts are this. Number one, just be open-minded. Just be open to God's movement. And so let's say, for example, you are doing your service online, right? And for some reason, your traditional format, your worship service format doesn't work for people. That's right. Change it. Change it. Now, I know different denominations have different requirements and stuff. I'm Baptist. And I primarily know and work with Baptist leaders and preachers. And so those, to me, are the easiest situations to change, because you get your church in a little group and say, hey, do we want to change this? No. And then you do it. Right. But it seems like it takes an act of Congress to get people to change small things. It's like you see these people actually want to engage, right? We're not in our building either. We probably won't go in probably before next year. Now, let me put this caveat. I am not a senior pastor of a church. I am an associate pastor, and so the decisions like that to go in or not our pastor and the deacons survey the congregation, but they ultimately make that decision.
Yes.
And I'm fine with that. It makes sense to me.
Yes.
But even now we have our building that's vacant, right?
Right.
Like we record in there once a week, so our pastor can do the sermon. But by and large, there's not a lot going on. This is a great time to offer, opportunities for people to engage with and through your church so that they can see a different facet of it, Yes. But even that, some people are closed off to it. One of the things that a church in this area did that I thought was so fantastic, they partnered with the county and used their parking lot as a testing site for COVID, like once it first started. I don't see why there would be some places that would turn that down.
Right.
Because it's just a parking lot, right? You're not going to the building. We just need your parking lot. And we'll give you the people, we'll give you the supplies. Just let the community come. No, we can't do that. That's not what the church is supposed to do.
Right.
Really? Where'd you get your understanding of church from?
Good.
So just being responsive to the needs of people, being open-minded to those that you say you're trying to seek and serve, and not trying to make people be perfect before you actually give them your attention, right? In this season where people are lost, you can't expect them to know your protocol and your etiquette before you open up.
And really, they're just not, I won't say that they don't care, but they're just not concerned about that because the challenge is so great.
Yep.
I do not go a day without reading a post about someone's loved one that just passed, of all ages, not just adults.
Right.
And where they're stressed out. People are dying from COVID all around us, and they just want help. They want answers. And what I have what I'm seeing from the church is that the church is still afraid. We are afraid to open up. Yes, it does mean that we are going to get conversations or posts or comments from some disturbed people.
Yep.
It does mean that, but it's okay. We can handle that. Certainly you can block them if all else fails, but that's the world. That's who the world is, and it has been that way. Except for we didn't know it because we've been inside our churches.
Just comfortable.
That's right. We've been comfortable. We know what we're doing inside those four walls, and we're good at that. It is now that I really think that God used COVID-19 to do a favor for the church and say, I'm sick of y'all being in them four walls. Come out. And now listen here, we're all over the world, not just in the United States. It happened everywhere at the same time, at one time. Like, to me, can't nobody else do that but God. No. So now we're out, and now we're still afraid. At some point, we have got to
stop being afraid.
Yeah.
Now, let me challenge something you said, Dr. Strothers, because I agree with you 1,000% that God can use and is using this to really reform what we think about ministry, church, and God's work. But in the beginning of the pandemic, I was having conversations with some friends from the seminary, and I made a statement similar to that. Like, I don't know where this came from, but I think God can use it to do blah, 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 blah. And this person said, what do you mean God can use this? People are dying. And I was like, wait, so you don't believe that God will use something bad to get glory out of his life?
Well,
I said, because my Bible, I can go and find you situations. But so that was one of the conversations that I was talking about with churchgoers, because there were a couple people that was really indignant with me that I would suggest that God might be able to do some good out of this thing.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, so number one, you might not really believe your word, because if you read it and you understand how God will use bad to show bad people that I am still God, that's number one. Number two, the fear that we traffic in when we serve a God that tell us that we don't have to fear.
That's right.
I'm not saying be reckless and just, go lick the pews to catch COVID. But I'm saying there are protocols you can take and there's some things you can do and not live your life in fear.
That's right. That's right.
And that's what we're supposed to do if we are called to be Christians. Jesus Christ was not afraid.
Right. That's right.
He was not afraid to upset the established order. He was not afraid to talk to the religious leaders and say, nope, you got that wrong. This is what you think, but this is what it is.
Yes.
I don't see that from a lot of our church leaders. And I don't know if it makes me feel better about how many people that we have that just don't know, or if it makes me sad that we got people in leadership that really don't know about the God that is portrayed in the Bible.
Yes. And that's a good point, because you're not saying be unwise or just go out there and be like, hey, I'm bold as a lion, I'm not gonna wear my mask, which some have done that and it did not work out well for them. Like, we're not ignoring the fact that there is danger.
Right.
We're not saying that there aren't things out there that you will need to be careful and be cautious of, but you still do it with the wisdom of God. You speak for the wisdom of God, and God did commission us. So if he's telling us to go, then he will go before us. He will make the way. He will prepare the way, and whatever it is that we need, whether it's like, don't go that way, or go this way, it's danger over there, go here, then he will lead us and he will guide us, or he will protect us in the midst of it. Just like with the Hebrew boys, God will get right there in the midst of a bad situation with us, even as he's here now. And so now, you're dealing with someone who, and there are a lot of people out there. Like, I had one guy come and post, he said that Christianity is no longer viable. It's not even popular anymore, that the world is turning to other religions. It used to be that America was 100% Christian. Now it's down to being 39%. I don't know where he got his numbers from, but this was the statement. This was the statement that he made. And so since he came to my post and made that comment, I responded by saying, well, that's the same thing that the devil said the day that Jesus was crucified. That Christianity is over, it's done away with, it's just not happening. I say, so here we are, 2000 and something years later, and it's still alive. So when exactly is Christianity supposed to be done away with? It's like, it's not going to happen. It's not, as long as we're here, as long as the presence of God is here, it's just not going to happen.
Let me say this to the gentleman's post. There have been times in the last couple of years where I've really struggled with this label of Christian.
Okay.
I really have. Like, going through seminary, learning the history of how Christianity in the Bible was used to do the evils that it did. Yes. I had a conversation with one of my seminary professors. Like, why should I carry this around? Why should I try to teach people about this when it was the thing that was used to justify lynchings and burnings and
yes.
And he told me that he understood and previously in his own ministry experience, he went through the same thing. Right. But he said that there must have been something in his ancestors and in my ancestors, people who were formerly enslaved, that this faith tradition helped them to grow through that and then build schools and build hospitals, like those things. So he said there's something there. He said it might not be practiced the right way by everybody, but it's not the faith. It's not Christianity. It's not Jesus. It's not God. It's the way we portray it.
Yes. Very good point.
And so also to what he's saying, that Christianity is no longer viable. I think if we keep having charlatans and just unprepared people in our pulpits, it could get there. Because here's the thing. A lot of what we do as Christians, I believe, is rooted and based in prayer. And you got to have a relationship with somebody to actually pray and believe that you can get what you ask for, right? if I'm listening to foolishness, and that's my term, if I'm listening to foolishness every Sunday, I don't believe you have anything to say to me. So I don't know how to get to this relationship. So
Yes.
I try to find my own way. And that's when Satan can get you, when you're
Yes.
wandering.
Yes.
So while I don't think Christianity is going anywhere, I do think that in this season, especially now with the world the way it is and things are changing, we
Okay.
do run a greater risk of alienating more people to the faith, I think, than before.
Okay, okay. I think that that's a very good point. You know, I mean, I'm a little older than you. I'm not that old, but I'm a little older than you. So, I mean, you're a millennial, right? And so I think that what I'm hearing, I think that is very good insight. From I have a different perspective simply because I am older, but I would like to know. Um, with being a millennial, and we know that a lot of young people have walked away from the church. So I get why, from your perspective, because you are seeing that, you're seeing that a lot. You're right in the middle of it. I mean, what do you think? I know this is a tall order, but what do you think it will take for the church to reach your generation and those that's coming behind you?
I'll say two things, and I'm sure after this call I'll think on it more and probably have a more refined answer.
Okay.
And this first one, what do they call it? What do they call it? Trigger warning.
Yeah.
Some folks just gonna have to die.
Okay.
Some people just are so set in their ways and so sure they
Yeah.
just God is just gonna have to transition them out.
Okay.
The second part is those who remain, or those even who choose not to die but want to help,
Right.
have to reimagine how we do church.
Okay.
One
Great.
of the biggest things that I think millennials and people younger than me want to do is to love their church, want to be a part of their church. But if I'm coming to this place every week and the only thing I can do is this little thing that you tell me I can do, go over here and do this, do this, I'm not going to keep coming back, because ultimately what you're doing is you're telling me, and I believe in tithing. God has blessed me through tithe, and so I'm not talking about the tithe as a principle.
That's right.
But in those situations where millennials have no say, have no voice, it's like you're saying, come to this place, pay me to be here, and then just shut up and do what I say.
Mm-hmm.
What rational-minded person is going to do that?
Right. That's right.
And so find ways to use the gifts of the people, of the millennials that you have, find ways to integrate them into what you already have. And then even if you don't have something that they're passionate about, find a way to create that. Because God equips all of us for specific ministries, whether it's a technical ministry of the church or just the ministry of presence, me being, me listening, me talking. So we have to start creating ways for young people to express their faith in a way that God will be pleased. But we also have the responsibility to teach them how their faith came about, what their book really says, but also how to develop relationships, both vertical with God and horizontal with people.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, then I don't know that we even need to try to keep having a church. So it's a matter of people stepping away from their egos and pride, and just being willing to say, you know what, I don't know.
Yeah.
Here's a thing that baffles my mind, Denise. I have been asked more times than I can count, how do we get young people to come back into the church? Okay.
Yes.
Now, the thing that baffles me about it is most times these questions come as part of someone's monologue about why things are bad, and they never stop to actually let me answer the question. Those who have let me answer the question say, oh no, we can't do that. They won't do it that way.
Well, it's like you asked, so I'm telling you.
Wait, so here's the thing. I am in that demographic that you're looking for. I have connections with people in this demographic that you're looking for. I've asked these questions to the people in that demographic. So the response I'm giving you is what they're saying.
Yes.
And then you come and take my response like, oh yeah, nah. Okay, so you really don't want young people to come to the church.
That's right. You really don't. Because it's presented almost as if listening to them and their suggestions uh, is, and this is what I've noticed from those who are in my age group and above, they are thinking that these young people want to change church. And I'm saying, yeah, that's exactly what they want to do, but they don't want to change God. They're not trying to get rid of God. They're not trying to get rid of Jesus. They're not trying to get rid of the Word of God. They want to be able to express themselves before God. Because I have two millennials, so this is how I know this. When we're sitting in those meetings, I'm saying, you just have to give them the freedom to do what it is. Let them express themselves before God the way that they want to, and let us as parents or leaders in the church, let us not try to dictate to them how they can or should worship God. They've watched us all our lives. They know how we do it. So if they wanted to do it that way, then they would, but they don't want to. They don't want to. And so I see that there are a couple of churches that I do know where the youth ministry is very strong. And they allow them really to have their own services and invite and for the adults too, not just a whole bunch of millennials in the room. It's a service for everybody where they allow the young people to run the service. Yep. And so their ministries, they have a very strong youth ministry. I mean, when I think about Hillsong, when I was growing up and after I became born again, and Hillsong, they would just all come into the room and just start worshiping God. Of course, for the African American church, a lot of us thought that was strange. But now, over the years, it's like, wow, I mean, the ministry is just so strong. The effectiveness in the world today, they were just in Australia, and now they are all over the globe. They have locations really because their pastor, Reverend Houston, just allowed the young people to come together and just begin to express themselves before God. And so as a result of it, a lot of young people started becoming born again, and just that whole thing. And so when we look at models like that, it should teach us something. It should say something to us, and that we not, as elders and pastors, that we not try to just keep our hands on everything. And so it's like, let it go.
Let it go a little bit.
God. Because this is a different day and time.
Yeah, and so this is the interesting thing that I think elders in the church and some people in the churches that I'm in and the churches I've been a part of, they do embrace this, but like by and large, I want to say a majority of people have not yet. The young people who are trying to express themselves in their own way, they want to be guided. They want to know, but they aren't given a seat at the table, and they aren't treated as if they have any understanding or conception of who God is. And so they're just shut down and said, nope, you got to do it this way. Right. Well, if that is not how God has revealed God's self to me, then I can't worship in that way, right? So it can start with just simply respecting the young adults or the millennials enough to say, what is it that you would like to see, or what is it that you would like to do? And that is not saying that whatever they say, you as the leader or the church person have to adopt it. That's right. But give it a fair hearing, challenge the thoughts and questions, because most times, if somebody hasn't been in leadership in the church, they'll expect or think things can happen in ways that they can't. And so by you as the leader explaining, you know what, we would love to do that, but these are the challenges with that. I think a person would take a no better than just saying no without the understanding of why. Yes. It's just a respect thing. And there's one other thing that just blows my mind. I've had conversations with older people in the church. I just love them because of the wisdom and knowledge.
Right.
But most times what I hear in difficult conversations with churches, because I provoke conversation, Denise, you remember that, right?
Yes.
It generally ends up coming down to, well, the young people don't tithe as much as the older people.
Mm.
That's true. But is that what God is requiring? Like, you tithe more, so now you can do everything you want, right? It's not that. It's like we have to get to a place to where we understand the way that we deliver
Yes.
our worship experiences, the way that we introduce people to Christ. It has changed.
Yes.
If you go back 30 years, it was different than what it was.
That's
If you go back 30 more, it was different. Like, there were churches that didn't have drums and instruments and stuff, but that stuff came in.
Yes.
What people are trying to do is help the church modernize and get to those people that is missing.
Yes.
And it always comes down to, well, the young folks don't like the old people. They're trying to kick us out. No, we're not.
Right.
We're just trying to actually let you know this thing that you're trying, it's not going to work.
That's it. That's it.
We're missing each other in the conversation. We're having two different conversations. People are feeling like you're trying to. Let me back up.
Yes.
So I had a conversation with a lady that I respect a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And since I've been at the church that I'm at, I've been very clear about the reason that I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
We went through this Sacred Sector Fellowship together. And that was one of the things. As soon as we finished, I said, "Hey, I want to bring this to our church because I think it'll be helpful."
Mm-hmm.
And so that was 2018.
Yeah.
And I've been faithful, and my word is my word. Like, if you don't like what I say, that's fine, but I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. And so I've told them I'm here to help this church grow. God placed me here. I've grown here. God wants me to help it grow. So whatever way I can, I'm going to do it. Well, fast forward, there was some stuff that we were working through, some issues, some hurt that we were working through. And a person that I respect a lot came to me and said, I'm not sure about you anymore. What do you mean? They said, well, I know you say you're here to help our church and you want to help us and stuff, but I don't know. I think you might be here to change our church. And this is what I said to that person. I was like, yeah, absolutely, I am. Yeah. And here's why. There was some hurt between people who have attended the church, feeling like some people aren't as friendly, as nice, as welcoming as they should be, right? Yeah. And so this conversation came out. I forced the conversation because I'm like, let's deal with this so we can get over it. Right. Well, that was the event that person said, you trying to change our church. And I said, yeah, absolutely, I am. I said, the reason that your kids don't come to this church, I want to change that. The reason that other leaders' kids don't come to this church, I want to change it because there's something wrong if somebody grew up in this church and decided not to go. Right, good. So I said, whatever that is, yeah, I want to change it. Are you upset with me wanting to change that? Right. And then I said, also, I want to change your sanctuary. Oh, no, you can't do. Why would you? Those people I got. I said, you don't even know what changes I'm talking about. Right. You just jumped. Just me saying change, you just went crazy. Right. And it's that type of mentality and mindset to where a lot of millennials and young adults say, you know what? That's fine. You can have your empty building. I'll go over here to the park. I'll go over here to Starbucks and worship. Yes, that's right. And that's what I'm trying to combat. And that's why I was so frustrated with what I saw on the sermons. Right. It's just like, it seems like on every side, we're just telling folks, we don't want you here. We're fine how we have it with our aging congregations. Yes. And forget your growth and spiritual development.
Right. Well, that to me is one of the keys to bridging the gap is that we have to learn how to speak to each other. We need to learn each other's language. I definitely, and I think that that is more on the older people. I'm not saying that the younger people don't have a responsibility as well, but I think that, you know, definitely from those that are more mature, I think that it is our responsibility to learn how to speak to young people, to learn their language. That means that we sit and we listen, you
Yep.
know, that we're not trying to tell you we're here if you need wisdom, if you need guidance, but we want to hear from you. We want to know what you're thinking and help us understand what specific things mean, like what, you know, emotionally,
Yep.
where are you guys? I mean, what is happening in your world today that's guiding you? You know, because when I was younger, we did not have the internet at all. It came about when I was when I first started college, really. The whole internet, and probably a little later than that, but we didn't grow up with cell phones. You know, we had to go to the library, and if we needed information, we had to ask somebody. Well, now if we need information, we can go Google it. You
Yep.
know, there's just so many ways to get it. They don't have to come to us, and that right there is why I feel where I feel that we've lost our connection, because they no longer have to come to us. They have options. They can go anywhere that they need, any place else that they need to, and most times it's not to the right places. So
Right.
it behooves us to really sit down and learn one another's language. And I think that then we can begin to build, because we got to leave this to somebody, and we want to leave it well. We don't want you guys flailing, trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
what
Mm-hmm.
to do, you know, but you can pick that baton up and keep right on running with it.
One of the things that one of the silver linings in the pandemic, I think, has been that conversations like these and with more people have been happening more frequently.
Yeah.
Our Sunday school classes, we changed those over to virtual, and on them each week, we get to learn each other a little bit differently. We get to learn
Yeah.
how, like, we wrestle with the scriptures together. We share, okay, this is not what I see in this passage. This is what I see. And
Yes.
everybody goes around and it becomes, okay, we don't all agree exactly, but now we understand. And
Yes.
so as a collective, we're growing together.
Right.
Um, that was missing in the in-person worship. You would go to service, you'd have Sunday school in the beginning if that's what it was. You'll do your service, your praise and worship, and your church service, and then whatever in the evening, and then everybody goes home.
Right.
There was not the space or the time allotted for people to get to know each other.
Right.
So imagine if you have a church that many people have been there for all their lives, and now you're starting to get young people or millennials to come in,
Right.
but you don't have the space for them to get to know each other, because when you come, you're sitting, listening, and
Yes.
then you go, or you go to Bible study or Sunday school and you're listening at somebody talking at you. You don't know this person next to you. You've not had a chance to form a relationship.
That's right.
So one of the things that we're being intentional about at our church is really fostering those conversations and trying to help people develop relationships both within the setting of the church, but also outside,
Right.
so that now we know, all right, we know that this person has a connection with somebody
Yes.
to the church. And so now if something goes wrong, or if they're not here, or they're not feeling well, somebody can tell and somebody can reach out. And I hope going forward, we'll be intentional about making that a part of our in-person worship, where people have just the opportunity, where they're not being taught, where they're not being, talked at, but you just have space just
Yes.
to get to know people.
Just to get to know people. Well, thank you. I really, really enjoyed this. I hope that we can do it again. Just keep it going and really get the conversation out there, and that other people could join us and just share their views. I personally would love to hear from our younger generations, and what do they want, what do they need, how can I, as a mother, a pastor, just how can I serve you guys? Because it's time for you guys to begin to start operating and take over. I want to leave my ministry in good hands.
In good hands, right? And the best way to do it is to groom that person that's coming behind you. And I think that's what all churches need to start looking at, a transition plan or whatnot, so that, all right, whenever the pastor decides, okay, I'm going to get a bigger church or I'm retiring, you don't have to worry, because you have leaders and lay people who just like, all right, whenever the next pastor comes, we're already good. Right. I'd love to keep the conversation going. So let me know when the next time, and we'll keep it rolling.
All right. Well, thank you so much, my brother. I'll be in touch soon. Oh, congratulations on the relationship.
Oh, thank you.
Many blessings to you both. I hope it goes well. Send me the invitation if it leads to that.
I definitely will.
Okay. All right, Kerwin. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.